Good morning. All right, so this video that I'm making for you today is about the distributive property. And if you look at the notes that I've provided so far, the distributive property, like the main goal of it is when you see it, you're going to multiply the number that's on the outside of the parentheses by everything that's on the inside. And this is a distributive property problem. So when you see something that looks like this, it's got a number on the outside with nothing in between, and then a set of parentheses with stuff on the inside, you're always going to use this rule. In 7th grade, when you guys get there, one of the teachers likes to refer to this as a party, and the number on the outside is going to the party and has to say hello to everybody inside the party. So I like to draw some arrows. This reminds me that I have to multiply the number that's on the outside by each part that's on the inside. All right, so the hardest part of this to start is that I am asking you guys to do 7 times A. So again, those little arrows to me represent that I am multiplying the number on the outside by the number on the inside. Now 7 times A sounds really difficult, but 7 times A just looks like 7A. Really that easy. All right, now when I go to the next part, before I do that, I'm going to use whatever sign was already inside right in between my two parts. So I've got 7A plus, and now I'm going to go back, and the 7 has to say hello to the 2 by doing 7 times 2, which makes 14. Now, in the notes that we did earlier this week, I said this is an expression, meaning I can't answer it, and I'm going to leave it just like this. We're going to later on talk about something called like terms, and then I'll show you if you can do anything else with a problem like this. But this is actually the answer to this problem, 7A plus 14. All right, so let's try another one. So let's try this. I've got 12, and then on the inside of my parentheses, 6 minus K. So again, to start off, I have to multiply the number on the outside by everything on the inside. So the 12 has to multiply with the 6, and the 12 needs to multiply with the K. All right, so in doing that, 12 goes and says hello to the 6, and that makes 72. So I'm going to write down 72. Whatever sign was in between up here, I'm going to put right in between my answer to the first part and the second part. And then I have to do 12 times K. And remember, I said that's the easiest one. You just put those numbers right next to each other, or the number and the letter, the variable, right next to each other. So 12 times K makes 12K. Again, later on, you're going to find out if you can do anything with these. Right now, these two make my answer. My answer is not going to be like one number. It's actually just going to be a problem. All right, let's try one that's a little bit harder. So I've got just a little change up for you. So I have a 3, and then in parentheses, 2D minus 11. Again, I need to follow the exact same rules that I already did. So whatever number is on the outside is going to go and multiply by every part on the inside. Now, the only difference here is that instead of just like a D, it says 2D. And that's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 3 times 2 and leave a D at the end of it. So 3 times 2 makes 6. And the D stays connected to those. All right, and then again, I bring down the subtraction sign, whatever sign was in between. And then my 3 has to go and say hello to the second part, which is 11. And 3 times 11 makes 33. This expression, 6D minus 33, would be my answer. All right, and let's try one more just like that. So this one I've got for you says 9, and then in parentheses, 2n plus 1. All right, so again, the number on the outside has to go and multiply by everything on the inside. And there are 2 parts on the inside. I know it kind of looks like there's 3 because there's a 2, an N, and a 1. But 2N is one piece altogether. Okay, so now I'm going to do the 9 times the 2N. And 9 times 2 makes 18. And the N just stays with it. Bring my plus sign down. Ooh, that was awful. I always talk to you guys about sophisticated math language. I bring my addition sign down. And then I'm going to do 9 times 1. 9 times 1 makes 9. And this is my final answer. All right, second part. This is like the basis of what you need to know. Actually, before we do, one more thing. I've got one more problem just to show you that the distributive property problems can look a little bit longer. So here's one more. All right, now, same deal. Number on the outside has to multiply by everything on the inside, and this time there are 3 things inside, and that's okay. 3 different parts. Still have to follow the rule that the number on the outside is going to multiply by every piece on the inside. This will kind of help to get us into what we're going to talk about next, which is combining like terms. All right, so in this problem, still going to multiply that 9 by everything on the inside. So that means 9 times 3 makes 27. 9 times C makes 9C. I'm going to bring that plus sign down in between. Again, I'm going to bring that other plus sign down. And then 9 times 4 makes 36. All right, now this problem is different because unlike the other ones, this is not actually my final answer. And the reason it's not my final answer yet is because of something called like terms. We need to combine like terms, which means put things together that look the same. So combining like terms specifically means that I'm going to put matching parts together. Now, matching parts, what I mean by that is if there is 2 separate parts that both have the same letter, I'm going to put those together. Now here I see that 9C doesn't have another pair where there's another number with a C with it. But I do see some matching parts. And those matching parts are these 2 numbers that have no letter with them. Those would be like terms, letters with nothing, with no variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these together, but I have to know how to put them together. So the trick is I put a box around those similar things, and I'm going to put a circle around the sign that was in front of the second one. That sign tells me what to do to put them together. So that means I have to add 27 plus 36. And so I'm going to add those 2 together. And I get an answer of 63 when I put those 2 together. And now what I'm going to do is whatever I didn't put a box around, I've got a plus 9C left over here. I'm going to put plus 9C down. And now I have a final answer. And the way I know I have a final answer is this number has no letter and this one has a letter. They don't match, which tells me I can't do anything else with them. I can't add those 2 together. I'm done. So let's try another problem where it's specifically combining like terms, looking for parts that match that could go together. So here is your next problem. I have 4D plus 9 minus D minus 8. Now in this problem I threw in one other trick. The trick is that if you see a letter and there is no number with it, there is actually always a number in front of a letter, and it's invisible if you don't see it. So if there's no number, there's always an invisible 1, which means that this is actually 1D that's sitting here. All right, now my goal was to look for like terms, parts that match that I can put together. So when I look at this problem, I see that I have 4 D's right here, and I have 1D right there. Now, like I said, when you find a set of like terms, I want to circle the sign that's in front of the second one. That tells me what I'm going to do to put them together. So if I were to like cover up this other stuff here, this is a problem that says 4D minus 1D. All right, I can kind of forget that the D's are there, but it's like 4 minus 1 with a D at the end. So 4 minus 1 equals 3, and the D has to stay with that. All right, now same deal. I'm going to look for another set of like terms, and I see that I've got the number 9 and the number 8 with no letter. That means that they can go together. And again, when I circle my like terms, I also have to circle the sign that's in front of the second one that tells me what to do. So again, I'm going to cover this up right here in the middle. And this problem is telling me to do 9 minus 8. And 9 minus 8 equals 1. All right, now the only problem is I don't have any sign in between these two, and I do have to have something in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look back into my problem, and whatever sign I haven't used yet, it won't be circled, is the one to use in the problem. So I see that I didn't use that plus sign. I'm going to put that right there. And again, I'll know it's my final answer if I have a letter and then the other part has no letter. That tells me that I've combined my like terms the right way. All right, let's try another one just like that, and then I'll move you on to one harder problem. Okay, so here you go. I have 3x plus 8 plus 2x minus 3. Sorry for the dogs barking. They'll stop soon. Okay, so again in this problem I'm looking for a set of like terms, things that look the same that can go together. So one thing that I can start with is looking for letters. So I've got 3x here and 2x. So I'm going to put a box around those guys. And again, I circle the sign that's in front of the second one that tells me what to do with them. And again, I could cover up this guy in the middle, and this problem is telling me to do 3x plus 2x. 3x plus 2x is like 3 plus 2 with the x in front, so I've got 5x. All right, then I look for another set of like terms, if there is any. I see 8 by itself without a letter, and 3 by itself without a letter. And again, I'm going to circle the sign in front of the second one. That tells me what to do. So I'm going to cover this guy up. And now I've got the problem 8 minus 3. 8 minus 3 leaves me with 5. And again, I'm looking for which sign in the problem haven't I used yet. I see that I haven't circled that addition sign, so I'm going to put that in between the 5x and the 5. And again, now that I see no other parts that could match, I know I'm done. All right, now I'm going to take you to a slightly different, more difficult problem that uses the same things, but it's going to combine the distributive property and combining like terms all into one part. So here is your next problem. I have 6 with the parentheses and then x plus 4. And then I have a plus 1 at the end. All right, so first thing, just like when we were talking about order of operations, my first thought should be parentheses. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses goes first, which means I need to do this distributive property problem first. And I'm going to take you right back up to the top of our notes where it says that I need to multiply the number on the outside by everything on the inside. So what this is going to look like is I have to do 6 times x and 6 times 4. Now, I can't do anything with that 1 at the end right now because it's supposed to be on the inside if I multiply. Right now, that guy is like in the backyard at the party, and I don't go say hi to it. All right, so again, I'm going to do 6 times x, which remember that just means write them down next to each other, 6x. I'm going to move that addition sign down, and then I'm going to do 6 times 4, which makes 24. Now that I distributed, I'm going to bring that plus 1 back down into the problem. Now I didn't change the 1, it stayed the same, but I just brought it down. Now that I distributed, I'm looking back up here and I'm saying, are there any like terms, any parts that match that I could put together? So I see I have a 6x here, but when I look over here, I don't have any other x's. But I do see that I have just the number 24 by itself, the number 1 by itself, and in front of that second one it says to add. So that tells me that I need to do 24 plus 1. So I'm going to keep the 6x the same. 24 plus 1 makes 25. And that addition sign right there is going to go in between. Now this would be my final answer because I have an x in this part. I don't have an x in this part, so there's nothing else I can do. All right, one last one for today, and then I'm going to have you try the practice activities just to see how you're doing with it. All right, so next problem looks a little bit more complicated, but is exactly the same as what we just did. All right. This time I just threw in an extra letter, an extra variable. Don't let that confuse you. All right, so I have 7x plus 2, and then parentheses, x minus 5y. So like I said before, I have to follow order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P stands for parentheses, which means first thing I have to do is I have to focus right here. I cannot add these two together. That's a no-no. Do not add those two together. So I'm going to pretend like this does not exist right now. And my first thought is, you got to multiply the number on the outside by everything on the inside. That is always my rule. So I'm going to do exactly that. 2 times x makes 2x. Bring the subtraction sign down. 2 times 5y. Remember that means multiply the 2 and the 5 together. Keep the y at the end. 2 times 5 makes 10 with a y at the end. So I just did the distributive property part. Now I'm just going to go back, put my addition sign and my 7x in the front. All right, now is my time to look for like terms, things that match that I can put together. So I've got the choice of some x's and a y. Now, I don't see any other matching part for the y, but I do see that I have 2 different parts that have an x. If I see that, that means that those 2 parts are going to be able to be put together, and the sign in front of the second part tells me what to do with them. So I'm going to add those 2 together. 7 plus 2 makes 9, so that means I have 9 x's. And I didn't have a matching piece for the y, which means I'm just going to put the subtraction sign down and 10y at the end. Now when I look at this problem, I have a part that has an x, I have a part that has a y. Those do not match. Even though they're both letters, they're not the same letter. So this would actually end up being my final answer because none of those parts match. Okay, so now what you're going to do is I'm going to post the worksheet and the Google form for you to try to practice the distributive property and combining like terms. And then tomorrow you're going to have a Kahoot that I made that is all about the distributive property and combining like terms to practice with. And then on Friday at 10 a.m. I'm going to be online for you to ask questions, and I'll go through problems with you that you might not have understood or maybe you got wrong from your practice. All right, so good luck and send me questions that you've got.